if you want to attract somebody that's going to raise and continue to grow a family that is outstanding. You want to be average, don't worry about anything I said. Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back. Well, the syndrome I want to discuss now is called, well, I kind of named it the Disney Princess Syndrome. The Disney Princess Syndrome. Now, every little girl, or at least in the West, they're told, oh, be a princess, and they hear stories of Snow White and Pocahontas and Mulan and all kind of other princesses, the frog princess girl, whatever her name is, and so on and so forth. Well, interestingly enough, this really paints a picture of a hopeless, helpless, weak woman that has to depend on a man. Excuse me. Yes, the West is very sexist. I think women get paid about 69 or 71 cents per dollar every man gets in the same position, and they don't get promoted enough. They have never had equal rights. When it came to voting, it's less than 100 years they finally have equal rights. This is part of what we're dealing with. Alhamdulillah, Islam came and gave our women justice over 1,400 years ago, rights to own property, run their business, and so on and so forth. But the issue we're dealing with now is this princess syndrome, where you have to be rescued by a prince, likely a white guy that will come and kiss you and make things better and take you off to live happily ever after. Is that what we want for our daughters? Some guy to just come save them, take them off our hands and live happily ever after? Where does that happen at? Yeah, exactly, just in fairy tales, right? But when they push this princess syndrome, this helpless woman having to be dependent on this man, having to kiss some stranger, they're encouraging the type of behavior that is not allowed in Islam. The disobeying of the father and disobeying of the mother and running off in the name of love that they can't even define. No two people can really agree on the term or its meaning of love in this fairy tale land. These are attacks. They want to look like them. You see Snow White with her chest out, just a lot of different things. When you see and you look at these individuals, I mean, I'm currently filming in a place where you can still go in and it's promoted in stores where they talk about be white. There's a package called be white. Get yourself whiter. Crazy, right? Self-hatred. Continuously pushing these small seeds, but these seeds grow and flourish into something else. So we must be able to weed our garden. Surely a garden does not need to be planted with weed seeds. You have to plant your garden, protect your garden from the weeds that will grow anyway. If you do not garden, if you don't nourish your garden, if you're not pruning and stuff, then the weeds are going to grow. Weeds are going to be there, so it's our responsibility to remove them, to protect against them. So, ways that many times we inadvertently confuse our daughters as parents, well, number one, if the mothers and women are not dressing properly in public. One, we know the Islamic principles of dress is, number one, is first to cover the awrah. First to cover the awrah, which is basically the whole woman's body. Number two is for comfort and to protect from the elements. The third thing is for beauty. So when a Muslim woman is dressed, she covers the awrah, what's required by Allah Ta'ala in Islam. Then she does it for comfort and to protect against the elements, the sun, the rain, the hail, the snow, so on, right? Then the third is for beauty, where it's the exact opposite in the West. In the West, they're just for beauty first. So it's not uncommon to go in the wintertime when it's raining and snowing and sleet outside, but you see a woman in a skirt and stockings, or you see them walking around in heels and they hurt so bad that over time they take their heels off and they walk with their heels because they're in such pain to impress a man, to be a toy for a man. We need to protect our daughters from this. They dress for beauty first, then the elements, possibly, then they cover their awrah. All right? Those are not our values. Ours say the awrah, then the elements and comfort, then for beauty. Okay? We have to be careful of it. Now, if we also inadvertently disempower our daughters in particular, when they only hear about women's issues from men, or when discussing marriage and obedience to the men. What happened to talking about the great women scholars of the past? What happened to talking about how the companions used to come to Aisha radiallahu anha and learn from her? What about those times? What about the early scholarship in Islam that was run by women, the many different masajid and schools, madrasa that they established? If the only time our women and our girls and our daughters hear about the women in Islam, it's about obedience or it's about marriage. Though those two are important, those are not the only two areas that women have added value to Islam in. You know, do they know about barakah? Do they know who breastfed the Prophet ﷺ? Do they know how she served him in her life? Do she know? They didn't even know she's Habashi. She's from Ethiopia. She's a black woman. I mean, we know that there's classism, a lot of racism, asabiyya that still exists, but the Prophet ﷺ said to leave it, it is rotten. So we have to watch out for these things for our girls, right? So another thing is waiting too long. Like I just talked a moment ago, waiting too long about teaching the virtues of Islamic dress. When you want to wait till they're a teenager and it's mandatory that they wear it, they become a woman, their body has changed, and then you want to change up some stuff, they've already have their concepts and their ideas and their fashion sense has already been established. But if you get it before it happens, it's a lot easier. After it happens, now we have to go back into some of the belief strategies that we put out. Now we have to get into the pleasure and the pain principles. Now we have to be able to articulate why and how they should be doing something and being able to show them the pain. That's a lot more difficult than putting a beautiful khimar on your daughter, making sure you're dressed properly as a woman, making sure as a man, you're making sure that your family is doing what they're supposed to do because you know you're that shepherd and you're responsible for your family members. So you have to be a man that is strong enough to recognize that al-wala wal bara, our loyalty and allegiance is to Allah. So no matter how sweet the food is, no matter how sweet the woman is, no matter how good or brush up they are, we're not going to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to obey the women. No, we encourage the women to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They should be encouraging us the same as we encourage them. All right? Because the strength of our ummah lies upon strong leadership. And leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So with that being said, men have a strong responsibility in this too. Into lowering your gaze, to showing that beauty lies in obedience to Allah. We know the principle in Islam. There's no obedience to the creation and disobedience to the Creator. And knowing that, our women must dress properly. Now, that doesn't mean because a woman dresses properly that everything else is okay. Her mental could be messed up. And I see this a lot. There's arguments about, I'd rather talk with sisters who aren't covered, aren't doing this, than a sister who is covered because she's participating so much ghiba or so much gossiping and backbiting and bad manners and bad adab. And neither of those two situations are the masses, if you will. Yes, there's sisters that are covered properly that have bad adab. There's sisters who are not covered properly that should be covered properly, but because they're not, that's also bad adab. It's disobedience to Allah. So there's a conflict. You can't have good adab and then at the same time you're disobeying Allah, clearly and openly. It really doesn't work. We are not the ones to decide what good behavior is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His Messenger displayed what good behavior is. Aisha radiallahu anha said He's the walking, talking Quran. So what He did, we look to Mu'mineen for the women. We look at the women scholars early days. We relate these stories to our daughters. We relate the powerful stories. And when we look at powerful women, we look at Khadija radiallahu anha. How did she come to marry the Prophet ﷺ? How did she send her sister to go see what's going on? How come he's not married? What's the deal? SubhanAllah. We have these ample examples, but we act as though we just want to perpetuate this same myth that our women, really can't do much. They can cook and clean and take care of stuff at home, which, alhamdulillah, is important. And raise a family, which is the most difficult job. However, we must empower and equip our girls to be leaders so they attract strong men. And we must attract strong men of this ummah if you want to attract somebody that's going to raise and continue to grow a family that is outstanding. You want to be average? Don't worry about anything I said. You want to be outstanding? That goes right back to understanding the circumstances that's going around and making sure you have Islam in your home, in your heart, and it's around you. And we're starting it when they're young. If we missed that time, maybe we weren't Muslim when they were young, so now they're older. Well, we have to do more work then. We have to break in, talk about the beliefs, find out what the motivations are, getting to the core. And we have to use that celebrity as that role model. We have to be the role model, right? Absolutely. We have to be the confidant. This is why this is X versus Y. This is how we do this here in Islam. This is why we do it. When we looking at people in Jahiliyyah before Islam and see how they were and how they acted and how they partied and they kicked it and they drank, made tawaf naked and they did poetry like rap and all that stuff today, we can compare and contrast to today's society and show the ultimate end of the people who did not accept Deen al-Haq. Right? We have that opportunity. Well, alhamdulillah. Then we have to use those strategies to get through to their heads because that clay has become harder. So, subhanallah. Now, again, fathers need to be men. Allah Ta'ala tells us clearly in Quran to save yourselves and your families from the fire whose fuel is men and stones. Allah Ta'ala again tells us clearly in translation what could mean. Save yourself and your family from the fire whose fuel is men and stones. May Allah Ta'ala make us successful in that effort, in implementing these different strategies, and staying close and seeking the help of Allah Ta'ala, because surely only by Allah Ta'ala's mercy can we be forgiven and granted Jannah. Okay, so what I want you to do, inshallah, I want you to listen to the notes. I want you to read your notes that you took today and listen to what it's saying to you and take action on some of these strategies. Because verily, this is part one of the dangers our daughters are facing. But I want you to go to outstandingmuslimparents.com/daughters. outstandingmuslimparents.com/daughters. Get the worksheet that we have designed for you. Learn a little bit more about the syndrome and put some action strategies in place for your baby girls. And if you don't have any baby girls yet, you have some teenagers, put these things in place and take action, inshallah. And inshallah ta'ala, you got some good stuff today. Remember, don't just take this intellectually, because a wish changes nothing, but a decision changes everything. We appreciate you being here and sharing with us. I'm Nazir bin Nasib signing off. Jazakumullahu khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace. I'm Coach Nazir.
And I'm Coach Fatima.
And I'm Coach Nyla.
And we are the founders of Outstanding Muslim Parents. I want to introduce you to something that you may be interested in because you seem like a proactive parent already just by the video we interrupted. All right. And that's called the OMP Inner Circle. That's where we all train deep dive into parenting. So whether that's the first stage of children up to 7 years old, or 8 to preteen in the second stage, or of course the teenagers and young adults in the third stage, we deep dive with the 3 C's as well as the 3 E's. So what our members get every single month, all of our students, they get brand new training every single week. That includes downloadable audios, downloadable worksheets, so you can deep dive into it. And of course, you have our personal email addresses as well. However, every single month, we have a live Q&A for all of our students. So we go to answer the questions or deal with different challenges and things that they may be dealing with parenting, because we know it's an ongoing struggle. Just us, here being the parents of 12 children.
Right.
Okay. So with that being said, I want to congratulate you on being proactive.
And make sure you click the link below in the description and we'll let you get back to the video. Assalamu alaikum.
Peace.
Peace.